Welcome into Ag Day Lubbock. I'm Dan Ernst. The Senate's in recess this week, the House in session. And one of the first items on the priority list next Monday when the full Congress meets is conferencing out a new 5-year farm bill. Rebecca Rivers visits with Congressman Randy Neugebauer, one of the House Republican members on the Farm Bill Conference Committee, on what challenges lie ahead in conference.
I'm here with Congressman Randy Neugebauer, who has recently been named a conferee for Farm Bill discussions set to begin later this month. Congressman, just give us an update on where we sit with the Farm Bill right now.
Well, as you know, the House passed their version of the Farm Bill and the Senate passed their version. And so now it's time to see if we can work out our differences and come up with an agreement that we can both agree on, take it back to our respective, the House and the Senate, then send it over to the President for his signature. So how we do that is the House has now appointed conferees, and I'm one of those conferees. The Senate has appointed their conferees, and so we'll start having meetings and trying to work out the differences. We were supposed to start those this week, but the Senate decided to take off this week, and so the House is in session. So my thinking is the earliest we would start meeting next week. In the meantime, what happens is that the staff of both the Senate and the House are working out some of the smaller details. In many ways, some portions of those are the same. So we'll try to dispense with those and then get to work on those where we're a little bit further apart.
And the big, obviously, issue is the cuts for the SNAP program, correct?
Yes, it's reforms. I think that when we use the word cuts, then I think people think we're taking food away from babies and women and children, and we're not doing that. What we're talking about is reforming those programs and making sure that the people that are actually getting those benefits actually qualify for those benefits. In many cases, there's ways to game the system where people are automatically put on food stamps that haven't necessarily passed the criteria. With 1 in 7 Americans currently on food stamps today, we need to make sure that the people that are on there actually qualify for it.
Sure, absolutely. And I know only 2% of Americans are actually involved in production agriculture. They make their living from farming or ranching. So talk about those other portions of the Farm Bill that are important: crop insurance, the commodity title.
Yeah, crop insurance and commodity title are very important, and we're really kind of changing the safety net for a lot of our producers. We used to have direct payments, and basically those were payments made directly to farmers, whether they were actively farming or not. We had counter-cyclical payments. The World Trade Organization found that those were trade distorting in a case that we had with Brazil. And so what we're really doing is beefing up and making the safety net more like an insurance type product, beefing up crop insurance, and adding some additional programs that are triggered when producers have low income periods or low price periods.
Okay, and I know the trend in Washington as of late has been kind of a procrastination up to the final deadline. Are we going to see this again up to the dairy cliff in January?
I'm hopeful that that's not the case. The fact that we've now gotten the House and the Senate version passed and that we're appointing conferees. So really what the holdup would be now is if we can't come to an agreement. And as you mentioned, I think that one of the big stumbling blocks here is, can we come to an agreement on what the reforms need to be for the SNAP program? There's some other differences between the House and the Senate, but I believe that certainly that will be one of the big hurdles.
Okay, and then talk about, I know farmers not only in Texas but across the nation have had a big issue finding labor.
Yes, it's a real problem. I've heard stories here even in my district where people had to plow up crops because they couldn't harvest particularly some vegetables. And so one of the things I'm hopeful that we can do, and we get past some of these fiscal issues like the debt ceiling and the CR, is really start talking about updating our immigration policy in this, particularly starting with the legal immigration part of making sure that we bring people into this country that can contribute and be a part of our economy. And certainly when we look at farm labor, that's an area where we've heard from a lot of farmers and ranchers is we need more. Sometimes those may be temporary workers, and some of those may be more permanent workers. Okay,
and then anything else you'd like to say to producers as you go into conference next week?
Well, I think the goal here is to get them a 5-year plan and a 5-year bill and quit this 1-year extension. Agriculture is big business. It's big business in my congressional district. The small family farm has gotten, it's a thing of the past, and now the family farm now is a much bigger farm. These farmers and ranchers are taking much bigger risk, and in order to take those risks, they kind of need to know what farm policy is going to be. So I'm very committed to making sure that we get a 5-year farm bill for them.
Perfect. Well, we certainly wish you luck in conference discussions next week. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.